Hello, everybody. It's John Pollock and Wai Ting with your post-daily news update. Hello, Wai. Welcome to day 2 of Infinity.
Day 2. Well, hey, we made it through the first day. That's usually the toughest one, right?
A good response, I thought. People seem to enjoy the video format, the brevity of a news update in the middle of the day. And you know what? By the time it was around 12:15 on Monday night and we were winding down the show, it's like, this is the best idea we've ever had.
The best thing ever. Yeah, absolutely. It's been interesting hearing about people from around the world and seeing how this kind of fits into their schedule. I would say much of our audience is in the Eastern time zone, so it kind of works out for their commutes home. But I also heard from people in like Australia who, I suppose it's, what time would it be, like 2 a.m. or something?
I don't guess on stuff like that, because then that's when the barrage comes of corrections. So
okay, well,
in the ballpark, yeah,
it works for them waking up actually. So you know what, wherever you are in the world, hopefully you find this useful.
We hope so. We're again open to all ideas, and I'm very excited about this way. I've said that many times. I keep getting all different ideas of how we can utilize this space, and I get to chat with you.
Oh, what could be better? Likewise,
Yeah.
John. You know, we don't need the G1 to have an excuse to call each other up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Are you kidding me?
No, like usually Wade just sends me to voicemail when it's not time to record. It's just, listen, I'm on my own time right now. So now we have tricked Wade into talking to me much more frequently on maybe double basis on some days.
Some days, yeah, but you know, I think we have big plans for this, and again, you know, it's an evolving experiment, so we'll see what happens at the end of the month. But for between now and then, but I think we have big plans for it. So please subscribe, or if you want this in audio form, join the Post Wrestling Cafe.
Yes, and we'll start off with the incestuous news because first of all, in this feed on Wednesday, Andrew Thompson is going to jump in with us for the daily news update. So you'll hear from the three of us going over some of the headlines. But if you missed Rewind to Raw on Monday night, we made our grand announcement, the acquisition of one Brandon Thurston coming over to the Post Wrestling Network along with the WrestleNomics family. So that will be a new Sunday night program at Post Wrestling. And it seems that a lot of people are excited about this news, including the two of us.
We had the live contract signing. You know, it was, I believe, like he signed it right on your back, John. It was kind of weird. And then
on my virtual back, yes. This was not exactly Mike Bailey, Josh Alexander, but close enough, yes.
Yeah. It was cordial. You know, no tables were broken, but words were exchanged. And you know what? They were very flattering words. So I encourage, if you guys didn't check out Rewind to Raw yet, go check that out. We had pretty much 10 minutes just talking to Brandon about what the move meant, and I'm so excited for this partnership, not just, you know, to expose our audience to, I think, you know, his brand of journalism and what he and Chris Gullo are able to present every single week, but just for further relationships between your journalism and his, that I'm really excited by.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff in the future with all parties involved. And later this week, in addition to Brandon's regular shows, his live ratings analysis, he will join me on Friday as the two of us will go through the third quarter earnings report that WWE will release at the close of business on Thursday. So we'll be back Friday, and then the first post-wrestling edition of WrestleNomics launches Sunday evening. So look out for that. It'll be on both the WrestleNomics feed and the main free post-wrestling feed. So if you're an existing WrestleNomics listener, everything stays the same. It's now available on our feed as well for you to check out. And with that, let us go into ratings with Wai Ting, the cable edition on Friday.
Let's do it.
Are we retiring that? Am I pushing that one too hard?
Yeah. Well, it's up to you, but I'm just the guy on the other end.
Well, we had the instance once again of SmackDown being on cable Friday night and finishing with 1,032,000 viewers, 0.29 in the demo, which worked out to 373,000 viewers. For a whole breakdown, do check out the viewership spreadsheet if you are a WrestleNomics patron. Rampage, meanwhile, aired immediately after with 623,000 viewers, a 0.25 in the demo. So SmackDown, none of this went head to head, though both went against the World Series, and we had FS1 airing back-to-back replays of SmackDown going against Rampage in multiple time zones. So in 18 to 49, it was SmackDown ahead, as they were in women 18 to 49, males 18 to 49, which it was a difference of 4,000 viewers. Although the 18 to 34 audience, that was where AEW came out ahead. So those were the keys. Older viewership certainly skewed towards WWE. But this is at least the last time for at least the foreseeable future where we get a cable, an apples to apples comparison of SmackDown and Rampage, even though not in the same time slots. But interestingly enough is that both shows, I would say, did very good numbers considering they were up against the World Series. SmackDown, for a show that had pretty much nothing promoted in advance in comparison to 2 weeks ago when they threw everything at that 2.5 hour edition. This was virtually identical with their best performance on FS1 during this whole Fox agreement, which was last December. So this was a good number for SmackDown, and for Rampage, it was a bounce back and their best 18 to 49 number since the Grand Slam show at Arthur Ashe Stadium.
Yeah. So what does that tell you? You know, when people make less big of a deal of some of this stuff, they're not throwing things on YouTube, they're not going head to head with sudden half hours of commercial free blocks. Somehow both these shows did better, and I don't know how much you really look into it. I mean, could just be a case of a shift in interest in the particular type of competition that these two shows ended up going against. I don't really have the explanation, John, but if you were to see the day come, and I do not foresee this happening at all, at least during the life of this agreement, that for whatever reason, okay, Fox acquires some mega hit for Friday night and somehow SmackDown were to get bumped to FS1. Again, I do not see that happening. But would you see SmackDown's audience growing beyond this level? Do you see it settling in around this audience? Like, there's a big gap when you're looking at network versus cable. But using this as a blueprint, 1,032,000 viewers, 0.29. Like, how much higher do you think SmackDown would level off at or stay around this level? If it were to permanently find a home on cable?
Permanently on FS1, 8 to 10 on Friday nights.
I think it would do better. I have to think so. I mean, just given the relative lack of promotion, I would say, for these FS1 moves, this is a one-off. And two off, sure, but, with a gap in between. And I would still say without, I think, the muscle memory, perhaps, of its audience regularly finding FS1 as a home, I have to imagine that it would probably do better than this.
I think it would certainly be a bit above this. Like, you're looking at SmackDown that typically does, anywhere from like 1.8 to 2.1 million viewers, in that range. And they're typically number one in 18 to 49 on network programming on Friday, which is a major feather in their cap. I don't see them replicating that audience moving to cable. I think there would, but I do see, 1,032,000 maybe being like the floor, that over time they would still average more. But that's kind of what this 2-week experiment was. How close could these two be? Obviously, in total viewers, they're not close. But in 18 to 49, it's like AEW was close. And if it was permanent, maybe you would see more of a gap. Maybe you wouldn't. Maybe these would be very, very closely contested races most Fridays. But it would dramatically, I think, change the approach to Rampage, because I think if they had SmackDown every week on cable and it was a fierce head-to-head battle, or not even in the same time slot, but running the same night on cable, I think they would look at the idea of going live with Rampage, for one.
So seeing that Rampage airing its replays right afterwards could have potentially had an effect on Rampage's rating. Can you see WWE and FS1 continuing that experiment, even if it stays on Fox? Yes,
I could see that happening. It wasn't gigantic numbers that they did for the replay, but it was like, when we talk about that males 18 to 49, I mean, that was very, very close. Again, 4,000 viewers. You have to look at, the replay. I'm not going to say it was like detrimental to Rampage, but it's something. Depending on where you live, it was a more advantageous time for you to watch SmackDown if you're on the West Coast.
I got some ratings here from Brandon if you want. The 10 o'clock replay was watched by 278,000 viewers including 119,000 in the Prime demo, which is a .09, and then the Midnight Replay by 147,000 and a .05 rating.
Like, honestly, for FS1, that's not bad at all. Like, for that, from midnight till 2 a.m., you're still doing a .05. Like, that's more than, some programs that we monitor. So it's interesting. I didn't even think about that yesterday, of like the continuation of FS1 using these replays. I could see that. It serves two functions, because you could argue that, number one, it's servicing another part of the country that can watch it at multiple times, and maybe a more advantageous time slot depending on where you live, because Fox treats SmackDown like sports, so it is airing live on all of these time zones, and you have the dual effect that if it takes just a modicum of the Rampage audience, and that's a win at no extra cost to ourselves. And for FS1, they're going to take numbers like this from 10 till 2 in the morning.
And if you're WWE, having those extra eyeballs on your product on another show, I mean, that's not a bad thing at all. But I mean, in the end here, I do feel like the big picture again is the fact that we are talking about both of these shows in very much the same conversation,
which that is kind of the conclusion here. Like, we got to see a pretty good, accurate gauge of where AEW stands, not against NXT, but instead one of the main roster shows. And I think the conclusion is it's close. Like, you can look at many, and we'll go through this on the earnings report. There are areas AEW will not touch WWE in worldwide, financial muscle. I mean, it's night and day. But in this specific television race, where everything is geared towards these television renewals, like, this is a major story, and we have that much more evidence coming out of two instances of both being on cable, and how Rampage would fare.
The continued data obviously suggests that like WWE is much more popular with an older demographic. Do you see AEW making more of an effort to grab some of those audiences just to kind of make up for the total viewership difference?
I don't think they're putting a ton of stock in the total viewership race. I don't think, like, it became a recurring bit on BTE, like trying to appeal to the over 50 demo, which I don't think they're really doing that bit anymore. That was like kind of, they did it for a little bit, and it was amusing for what it was. But I just see that to be like, what are we going to do? Are we really going to, like, what are we going to do to change our product to appeal to an audience that part of the reason that you don't necessarily cater to that audience is that they are very brand loyal. They're set in their ways. It's very hard to disrupt habits when you're talking about a viewer that has been a WWE consumer for most of their adult life, and they're not going to change that. So, and it's not like the total viewers is not going to be the be all end all. Like, it's just what it is. And that goes both ways. Like, for people that will get all upset when, they're talking about the demo because that benefits AEW, it goes both ways. If we had this total viewership race, SmackDown does not look appealing on Friday nights. It does, near the bottom of the big four networks on Friday night. But instead, it's number one on Friday nights because we go by 18 to 49, which is going to be the demo that is going to constitute success or failure.
I tend to agree with you. Do you have any thoughts on the quarter hours that just came out? Or at least Dave had some mention of it, I think, on yesterday's show. Brandon just put out a chart here indicating the top, at least in 18 to 49 throughout the episode, was Britt Baker versus Abaddon, with 344,000 in 18 to 49.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see because, typically what we have seen is that it's the first quarter that just does the big number of the show, and then you have a bit of a sliding scale throughout the show, maybe a bump here or there, but it's the first quarter that really dominates. So I think it's a major coup, the fact that the main event not only held people, but grew them in so many demos, while also going against, like, the World Series was still going on, which is late in the game. And you did have a SmackDown replay, which was minor, but it's something that you don't typically have to go against if you're Rampage. I would say that this is confirmation that Abaddon is a superstar.
Man,
which is going to upset a lot of people.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, it's that plus the combination of, I think, the stipulation attached, but more, I think, a feather in the cap of Britt Baker as well.
Yeah, no, I say that facetiously. Like, it's, for both of them, it's a credit to both, and that this was something that people were interested in. Like, that's what the numbers bear out, and it goes against the usual trend for these Rampage numbers. So it's a very interesting night on Friday. I think more of a measured analysis and response from people coming out of it, without the fervor of 2 weeks ago, which was both amusing and catastrophic to observe from afar.
I found less hype for this go around, and I think that leads to a bit more rational thought. I hope.
We can only hope, Way. So NXT, this also coming courtesy of Brandon Thurston, and I've heard the same, that NXT is expected to hold a Sunday night special on December the 5th, with an announcement still to be made and probably imminent, because we're only a month away from this. But what will be interesting, Way, is how this event is branded. This would be the first special of its kind on a Sunday night since the revamp of NXT 2.0. The last takeover was back in August. And I can understand the idea of takeover has become this branded event that you have put all this equity into, that it means something with your audience. At the same time, I don't know if now is maybe a better argument is making that separation, because it's almost like you are putting, what is the philosophy of this new NXT 2.0, and is putting them up against the takeovers of the past for fans to compare. Is that really fair to the vision that we have of what NXT 2.0 is? Like, I could see either way of where you go with this, but if you were to kind of phase out the takeover name, this would be the event to start that with.
It would. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, at that point, why even call it NXT? If you're not going to maybe use some of that reputation that you built up from the previous roster.
Well, maybe you keep takeover, and it's like that is, they have built up a very healthy lineage of that show, which was, I mean, talk about a success rate of shows. That would be the high percentage of shows that delivered in a major way. Maybe you don't worry about fan reaction because you want to build off of this name you have utilized, and that's what we're going to be aiming for.
That's my thinking. That's what I think they'll be doing. I think ultimately all they really care about is perhaps the numbers that, the streaming networks seem to get attached to a show like this. How much buzz is there for a show like this? And if they changed it to another name, I think they would still receive that general level of buzz. But I also don't think they're worried so much about maybe constant comparisons between the old roster and this one. They just went through it last week, and yeah, I would say for the most part, reactions were that this was not, a Halloween Havoc like it was last year. This does not feel like a takeover level event like it did in previous years. But I also feel like they will not pay that much attention to it and continue to put on the best shows that they can. In their mind, they are putting on these takeover events, and I think that coupled with just the brand value of the show, I imagine they'll keep it.
What if they meet in the middle and it is NXT Overtaken?
Overtaken. Okay. How about fake over?
Fake over. Okay, that would
makeover.
Man, you're on fire today.
Oh, yes.
These are some good ones. Well, tonight's show on the USA Network, we have Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams versus Johnny Gargano and Dexter Lumis. Gargano is an interesting figure to watch as well over the next month, because as it has been reported, his deal is up December 3rd. And, he is still very much in the mix in NXT, and I guess the next month he is going to be someone that is going to be watched with great interest to see what his move or lack of move is.
Timing is interesting because obviously everybody's looking towards AEW, but AEW only has so many slots, and I would imagine at some point their budget is going to top out as well. And somebody like Johnny Gargano, I mean I can't really speculate how much money he's making, but I would imagine he'd probably want to make a bit more coming off of what he's doing right now with this contract. So will be interesting to see.
Kyle O'Reilly and the man Von Wagner versus Joaquin Wilde and Raul Mendoza. Cameron Hayes goes to Duke Hudson's.
Hey, did you know that Joaquin Wilde created the Ring of Honor logo?
I did know that fact.
Holy
before
shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like I had heard that before, but yeah, for those that missed it, it was reposted last week that he drew up the original ROH logo as a teenager, and it was like a fan submitted logo contest, and his was chosen, a young Michael Paris.
That's unbelievable.
It's
a
a
great
very
claim.
cool stat that people were made aware of last week. Cameron Grimes is going to enter Duke Hudson's poker room. Tony D'Angelo will be on Lashing Out with Lash Legend, and Robert Stone has issued a challenge to Zion Quinn. This is quite the show coming up tonight.
Yeah, if you, I don't know how great of a follow-up this is to Halloween Havoc, but clearly they're not trying to go after the hardcore, like the former NXT crowd who was strictly watching for like indie level talent. Like this is very much what, again, it's designed to do, and that's to give the spotlight to inexperienced talent.
The last item here that I did want to talk about. So over the weekend, maybe the big show in the US, because it was a rather quiet one, was the H2O show with Matt Tremont coming out of retirement for this current blast death match insanity.
Double current blast death match. I'm not exactly sure what the double hell something.
Double blast, double current, double insanity, whatever you want to call it here. But in all seriousness,
double hell. Yeah.
Matt Tremont sustained like serious burns in this match, and the latest from Mike Johnson is that Matt Tremont will likely remain hospitalized for up to a week after suffering burns on Sunday night. This match taking place in Trenton, New Jersey, and I think that we have seen, especially over the last, I would say 2 to 3 years, just I think more readily availability of death matches through different companies like GCW. We have seen, I don't want to say like a mainstreaming of it, but we did see as close to a death match as we could imagine on cable TV this year with Nick Gage on Dynamite. Like it is, I think, more accepted than ever, this style. But I hate to hear stories like this. Like there should never be an instance where a match leaves someone hospitalized for multiple days. I mean, this guy is, from burns. And I think like there does come that degree of responsibility on the side of a promotion of what we're delivering that the fan base wants. But at the same time, like there needs to be oversight here that this is a bad look.
I don't disagree with you whatsoever. I just don't really know how to kind of balance my own feelings when we're talking about a exploding ring death match. By its nature, you're expecting some sort of casualty and a great deal of risk involved. And if you see the stunt, I didn't get a chance to watch the whole match, but I have seen the GIFs, and I mean, it's literally Onita throwing a man into fire. And they had a lot to live up to. Everybody's coming off of comparisons to that AEW match and the very disappointing outcome of that one. And so Onita, with his reputation coming over to the U.S. and his people coming over to the U.S. to set this up, and Matt Tremont coming out of retirement to have a match with a legend, they wanted to go all out, and part of that includes jumping into a literal fire, which is insane. I even have my limits when it comes to some of this, and knowing the result of it, I don't feel much better about checking out the match, unfortunately. But John Pine, who's a big fan of this stuff, absolutely loved it. I encourage everybody to go check out his reviews. There is a different audience for this type of thing, and it's going to be a different level of tolerance for that particular audience. And I'm sure if you ask Matt Tremont, like even in the hospital bed, he probably would tell you that this was worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting and deeper discussion of like what fuels a performer and what the cost that someone is willing to undergo. And I wouldn't disagree with you, but obviously we hope for a complete, full, and speedy recovery for Matt Tremont. So that's going to wrap it up for today's news update. Again, Andrew Thompson is going to jump on with us on Wednesday. And in the meantime, do check out his new interview with MLW's Alex Kane. That is up on the site, and check out Andrew Thompson interviews on YouTube. So look out for that, and Rewind Away will drop later tonight with a review of TLC 2011, where I think Way has found the 7 seconds that define this event.
Yes,
so all of that and more. PostWrestling.com.
Up next, as usual, tonight.
That's right, man. Pack night. We will get Braden and Davey, their post-Halloween analysis, and Duke Hudson and Cameron Grimes in the poker room together.
I want to hear their post-Halloween analysis of their actual Halloween. That's what I'm more interested in.
Oh, that's what I mean. Yeah. We want the post Sunday analysis from the two of them. Cody and Arn.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll speak with you tomorrow.